How does an entrepreneur create a startup business that sells water in an already saturated bottled water market? How did the water brand Liquid Death create demand for their product before they even had a product? Stay tuned to the end of this video to find out answers to these and other questions about how Liquid Death broke into the $400 billion bottled water industry to build a $700 million water brand. Most businesses start with a product and build a marketing plan around it. Liquid Death, however, was built using an opposite strategy. That is, the marketing and branding came first and the product followed. Using a unique marketing strategy, Mike Cessario, the founder of Liquid Death, used marketing and branding to create demand for his brand of water called Liquid Death. Here's the story on how he did it.
Crass and vulgar, but it was art and it was really funny. What is the dumbest possible idea we could do for this? Because our brains are wired to just repeat things that we've seen be successful in the past. You kind of have to trick your brain to come up with a bad idea to truly be thinking in sort of like innovative territory.
This is 40-year-old entrepreneur Mike Cessario, and when he came up with the brand name for his product, he came up with something really unusual: Liquid Death. The name is dumb, but the marketing makes it genius. The real question is, why is Liquid Death so successful? Why do we need to drink water in a can? Watch until the end to find out. The co-founder and CEO of Liquid Death, Mike, says that his company has brought in nearly $130 million in sales this year alone. The reason for this success is because people are getting sick of the same old boring water brands that they've been drinking their whole lives. Mike thinks that people just want something different, and he's got something different. Mike Cessario turned a funny idea he once had for a commercial into a $700 million brand. When Mike was a kid, he received an old collection of Mad magazines from his cousin. This was a very important moment for him, as it helped shape his interest and hobbies. Mike started playing guitar in punk bands and soon realized that he had a lot of creative energy that he wanted to use in other ways. He decided to quit his band, but was offered several recording contracts from different labels. Mike chose to attend the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California, to study graphic design. He eventually decided to pursue a career in advertising,
which is what really attracted me to advertising, because it seemed like it was more of a place for humor and comedy than graphic design was.
List for the Warped Tour in Denver. Monster Energy sponsored many of the bands performing on the tour. It was here that the idea for Liquid Death was born. Watch the video to the end to follow the unique birth of the product.
I always knew that there was something in that idea, and it kind of just stuck with me. And just on the side, over the next few years of working at random agencies, I was always just sort of continuing to develop this concept of canned water and like, what can it really be?
Mike worked at ad agencies around the country. While the work wasn't always creatively fulfilling, it gave him the chance to meet and learn from some of his clients, an experience that helped shape his own philosophy about marketing.
How wide the audience really was for something like this. Hundreds of parents who message us on social saying, "Thank you, Liquid Death, you finally got my 9-year-old excited to drink water instead of soda," because he thinks he has something he's not supposed to have. The construction worker guy who goes to a 7-Eleven and typically buys 2 energy drinks.
Brandy, he remembered a pitch he had once made for a canned water ad, poking fun at energy drinks, one of which was definitely not being consumed by any brands at the Warped Tour.
I always knew that there was something in that idea. Almost 80,000 followers, which was more than Aquafina on Facebook at the time.
But how could a new product hope to compete with the giant bottled water industry, valued between $146 billion and $350 billion? Keep watching to find out the marketing strategy they pursued to make waves in the saturated water industry.
Social traction to then actually go get people to take me seriously.
In order to prove that his idea was viable, Mike decided to produce a commercial for the product. He had no cans in production, but he figured it was worth a try.
That taste is why things are successful or unsuccessful, or why one brand is better than another.
Mike raised $150,000 in initial funding. found a water supplier in Austria, and sold the first cans of Liquid Death online as a direct-to-consumer business.
Continuing to develop this concept of canned water.
Whole Foods was the first big retailer to take an interest in Liquid Death.
We designed a 3D render of a can that looked real.
While still far below brands like Dasani and Aquafina, Liquid Death sales have grown from $2.8 million in its first year to $45 million in 2021. Mike says they're on track to hit $130 million by the end of this year, thanks largely to social media influencers who have helped spread awareness of the product. So, how did Mike creatively use branding to turn a healthy alternative into a hip counterculture alternative?
This is the greatest thing ever. Where do I get this? Is this real? A 7-Eleven franchisee in Michigan reach out. How do I get this in my store?
Liquid Death has raised $195 million in funding and is valued at $700 million. This figure has been bolstered by the beverage's wide retail availability, which includes over 60,000 locations throughout the US, including 7-Eleven, Walmart, and Target, where it sells for about $1.89 per can. But Mike says it's not necessarily the product or service itself that drives consumers. It's an emotional connection to the brand. And if you want to see more content like this video, hit that subscribe and notification buttons so you'll be notified of new videos. From a branding point of view, Liquid Death is undeniably intriguing. The idea of selling water as a counterculture product is intriguing, and the campaign seems successfully built around that paradox. They're not a company that takes itself too seriously. They just do what they do because it works, and if it sells water along with that, then all the better. This marketing and branding strategy are well executed, to say the least. Liquid Death isn't afraid to be silly or to make a joke. It's an amazingly effective way for them to be fresh, fun, and memorable.